Hello, neighbor. I'm Robert Burns, and welcome once again to another edition of Sound Off Louisiana. We have just concluded the court hearing for the writ of mandamus, argued by Carl Cavalier. He is standing in front of you. As you can see, he brought quite a contingency, quite a contingency showed up, as is evidenced here. And let me just give the quick ruling of Judge Johnson, and then we're going to ask Carl to elaborate to whatever degree he would like, and then we will let anyone who would like to come up and make their observations. We're going to afford them that opportunity, because that's why we call this blog Sound Off Louisiana. The trial lasted approximately 2.5 hours. There were approximately 21 exhibits entered by the defense and approximately 14 or 15 exhibits done by Mr. Cavalier. Mr. Cavalier did an outstanding job for a pro se litigant. At one point, Judge Johnson referred to him as counsel. So I think that would be an indication of his abilities and his ability to argue his points. So the ruling, now, as I indicated in the prior feature, a writ of mandamus, if the agency can establish that it has discretion, then typically a writ of mandamus will not be granted. That's what happened today. Judge Johnson did deny the writ of mandamus. However, he did not dismiss the case with prejudice. He dismissed it without prejudice. And so he stated that if there's a point where the matter in federal court changes from what it is presently, and the State Police Commission still is not affording him the opportunity for his hearing, obviously he can come back into court, not have to refile, it was dismissed without prejudice. So that was the nutshell ruling today. Mr. Cavalier, why don't you give us your take of how things went today?
I appreciate you, Mr. Robert. It's good to hear me.
Yeah, I hear you.
So my take of today was that the opposing counsel was allowed to have a free, open range on the court today. They was allowed to introduce evidence that I thought was related to the federal case, and I objected several times.
You did.
And I explained that. I thought the evidence was, directly related to the federal case, and just was loosely, you can stretch and try to make it related to the commission proceedings. But nevertheless, the judge allowed that to proceed, and once he allowed the first objection to be overruled, it was just open season from there, and they were just allowed to put on a case that was just had anything to do with the writ of mandamus, in my opinion. So I felt like I did a great job.
You did an outstanding job.
My family, my extended family here, for supporting me today. But I think the big thing on my end was to get my exhibits into the record. Win, lose, or draw today, my exhibits got into the record. So when I appeal later on, if I have to appeal anything later on, everything will be in the record. So that my mission was accomplished today.
Very good, and you can certainly hold your head high. Dressed very nicely, and I think Judge Johnson was impressed, notwithstanding the ultimate ruling that he may have made. So thank you so much, Carl. Who would like to speak up next? This is open floor mic, so anybody, don't be bashful, don't be shy, jump right on up to the sky. So
I'll speak.
Here comes Miss Mona Hardin. I think most everyone knows who she is. But we'll give her an introduction anyway. This is Ronald Green's mother, and our blog has extensively reported on Ronald Green, including breaking the original story on September the 10th of 2020. They made the trip all the way from Florida, as they have done on numerous court hearings and other related legislative testimony. They have been extremely dedicated to Mr. Ronald Green and his memory. So, Ms. Mona, what were your thoughts about today?
I'm just overwhelmed with how Carl stepped forward. I wasn't even prepared for the magnitude. I spoke to him so many times, and to hear him say, "I'm prepping myself, I'm getting ready," I had no idea. What he did in there was monumental. Anyone watching this, whoever has a story to tell, come forward. Carl Cavalier, I can't wait to see what happens next as he pursues law, because we need more integrity like that. We need more integrity with the people that are surrounded here. You need to pay attention, because what's happening here with state troopers in Louisiana, not to mention the surrounding states, everyone needs to pay attention because we're pretty damn sick of what's happening. We're really, really beat down, tired, and we need folks of integrity to step forward. And all I can say is let's keep doing it.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mona. Who'd like to be next?
Mr. Robert, there was one point.
Oh, sure.
There was one point that I failed to mention. I think another big point of interest that we learned today was the Chapter 13 rule in an appeals process with Louisiana State Police Commission, and as it concerns with discretion. Louisiana State Police Commission, as it says in Chapter 13, an appeals process with discretion, is open-ended. We found out today that it's open-ended. There's no end. There's no writing in the rules saying that, hey, you know, you get to this point and State Police Commission discretion ends. They get to use it endlessly, you know, just however they want. And we've seen that here today. You know, opposing counsel couldn't state to the judge at what point does the discretion ends. And that's horrible. That's horrible for people like myself and people who are going against you know, individuals in front of Louisiana State Police Commission.
Absolutely. And there was one point I'll ask you to comment on it. The judge wanted you to argue to him about did you feel you played some role in all of these delays? I see a lot of head nodding going on. And I thought I don't want to state your arguments for you because you stated them. Let's go back to that time frame about LSP dishonoring subpoenas. Had that not happened, your hearing would have been held. It would have been conducted. So I thought you did an excellent job of saying, no, I'm basically not going to take a modicum of this being my fault. So why don't you elaborate on that? And again, this was April and May of last year. We had all kinds of problems about folks folks dishonoring subpoenas. We're talking about a former colonel who dishonored a subpoena. We're also talking about records not being provided that caused another delay. So, Carl, why don't you go ahead, because I know that was frustrating. You canceled loads, as Ms. Kraft indicated, and go ahead. But he wanted you to explain to him how you didn't have a role in this. So why don't you go ahead and recap, if you don't mind, that little segment of the hearing.
No, of course, and I think you summed it up well. But when the judge presented that question, it was very easy to me to give him a reason of why. You know, I think that I didn't play a role in the continuance of my cases. You know, it's documented. It was presented in the exhibits, you know, here today on both sides. Actually, the court minutes that the hearing minutes that I presented and the exhibits that the opposing counsel presented proves that the attorney for Louisiana State Police, Ms. Gail Holland, was in a hearing, one of the first two hearings, saying that, hey, you know, the paperwork that you subpoenaed was just too much. I just didn't get a chance to look at it. What type of excuse is that for an attorney? And what type of excuse is that for the commission to accept? You know, it's a thing of them reaching here today saying that they allowed the continuance to go through to help me out. It didn't help me at all because look where I'm at. You know, look, I would never be in this position. You said it well. I would never be in this position if it wasn't for those continuance pretty much forced on me, you know, at some point. Correct,
and I'll make one other observation and have you comment on it. Mr. Cavalier did subpoena 3 witnesses that there was a gentleman, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but he had been retained within the last week strictly to represent those 3 witnesses, and he made a move to have their appearance quashed. One of which was Gail Holland, and the other of which, was it Faye Morrison and who was the other one?
Gail Holland and Faye Morrison.
Gail Holland and Faye Morrison. And he had basically said that, well, you didn't follow the proper procedure. And I want to point out one thing. Now, he's not a lawyer, but as you saw in our last feature, Miss Feeney didn't follow proper procedure for having testimony from the Miss Pellegrin and Mr. Mayu, as well as Colonel Davis, as well as getting this long sought after secretive agreement that nobody has seen. Mr. Hanneman says he's not seen it. You emphatically said you've never laid eyes on it. So at least you can take some company that if you didn't quite follow all the I's and T's, and not being a lawyer, neither did she. And I can only assume, because there was nobody from Nooner Pate. That's where Ms. Pellegrin and Mr. Mayu are employed, and they were not here today. So I am having to make the assumption that behind the scenes, they kind of figured, hey, we can defeat this without having to have their testimony or getting those documents. What were your thoughts in that regard?
Those were my thoughts exactly when I combed over the crowd and seen that Nooner and Pate, Ms. Pellegrin and Ben Mayu not present in the crowd. Those are my thoughts exactly, that they talk behind the scenes, you know, as I think they usually do. But yeah, I agree with you. You know, it was just a far reach here today, you know, to rely on the word of a previous attorney that I'm very critical about. I have voice recordings of her. You know, even on your blog, you have the voice recordings.
And with this feature, we'll provide a link where anybody can go and listen to those recordings, because I believe they're probably about the most incredible matters, I'll put it that way, that this blog's ever published. Arguably, that may or may not be the case, but as you've said, and there's reading a transcript is one thing, listening to the voice inflection of Ms. Kraft as well as Mr. Cavalier, but we're going to provide that link so that anybody who has not seen or listened to those recordings, which I think you were very astute to record, we're going to provide anybody with the opportunity, if they have not already done so, to hear that.
And I would leave off with this. With anyone paying attention to my court case or cases and, you know, the interviews and all, and you might be a bit confused, just pay attention to what people say and the things that they present. I have voice recordings and emails and all of these things. They're saying they're relying on a mystery settlement. No one has ever seen it. If they had a settlement, they would produce it here today. You know, they will produce witnesses that say, hey, look, I have the settlement, or here's the settlement. I was there when the settlement was signed. There was no settlement signed, and I will give you one thing further, that in Magistrate Bourgeois' courtroom, and it's documented, he asked opposing counsel, was any proposed settlement reduced to writing? They admitted that nothing was reduced to writing. Now everyone is
denied. Right.
Everyone is contradicting their statements now. There's nothing in writing. So where's the settlement document? You know, I wouldn't be so sure of this if I knew in the back of my head that there was a document that would come along down the line and make me a liar. You know, I wouldn't be saying these things. You know, so pay attention to people's words and what they say and the things they're pointing to. I have all my evidence and ready to just throw it out to the public for everybody to see. They don't want to show they don't want to show the things that they're basing their testimony on.
Well, and I want to bring out one last point, and it was when Mr. Hanneman, for those of you who may not be familiar, he's the executive director of the Louisiana State Police Commission. Now, Mr. Cavalier, there were 3 different disciplinary actions, 3 different appeals, but with regard to the one for termination, Mr. Hanneman was asked, can you state to this court why he was terminated? Would you mind repeating Mr. Hanneman's response? If you don't recall it, I'll give it to you. But
if you give it to me, I'll pick it back up.
He said he was terminated for giving out reports to the media. Okay? And you're looking at folk that have a keen interest in what he gave out, and that is the arrest and in-custody death of Ronald Green. And as you can tell, there are a number of Ronald Green supporters, of the family, friends. So if you had not done that, which none of us would have the kind of detail that we've got, you would have only had the 2 smaller suspensions, not to trivialize them, but compared to termination.
Correct.
You know. And those hearings would have gone forward. There never would have been a $200,000 settlement, or I'm sorry, offer. So would you like to comment on that? That we now have admitted in court under oath. We knew it already.
That's discrimination. We got them, brother.
But the reason you were terminated is that you specifically went to Chris Nakamoto. I think everybody.
That guy said. Discrimination. Yeah.
The guy said he made statements in the media.
Correct. That's what Jason Hanneman said is what led to his termination. So,
I mean, commenting that that is going to be the same as I've done before in other interviews and in internal affairs investigations, is that they're reaching. You know, they was reaching in, they're reaching out. You know, they're desperately trying to paint me in a bad light. You know, I'm just ready to move forward in some type of venue, whether it's State Police Commission, coupled with being in a federal courtroom, and my evidence is going to speak for me. Things like this coming out in court today Mr. Hanneman making that statement is, you know, it helps me. You know, it helps me. But my thing is that the truth don't need any additional help on top of these recordings that I have. It's just you can't dispute that. I told Miss Jill Craft, my previous attorney, and one of the recordings, look, I have evidence that you're not going to be able to dispute. You know, it's your voice, it's you talking. This is the things you said. You can't dispute that. You know, and I received an email from her that contradicts what she said on the recording. They don't want to let me in the court to show these things. So, you know, I'm just waiting to get in the court, you know. Well,
and I'll ask one last thing. I said earlier there were 3 witnesses that you had subpoenaed, and the 2 attorneys, the Judge Johnson did grant the motion to quash. However, on the 3rd, he allowed her to testify, that being newly installed Lieutenant Colonel Treon Larvadane. Now, I'm just going to tell everyone, and we'll gradually probably have future posts on it, I have gotten more blowback about Treon Larvadane having been placed in a lieutenant colonel position than probably anything I have covered at state police. Not going to go into the specifics, but I think probably you know what they are. And he was although he allowed her to come in as a witness, Judge Johnson was awfully restrictive about what you could ask her and pretty well cut it off. What were your thoughts? I know it's very hard to try to improvise on the fly when you're in a courtroom, but what were your thoughts about bringing in Lieutenant Colonel Larvadane and then not really getting to open up the door very much?
I thought it was strange, and I thought it was weird that Judge Johnson did take that position and decided to cut me off in my line of questioning. With the one witness, he decided to let me question. You know, as far as the 3 witnesses goes that they were trying to quash. I thought it was weird, you know, cutting me off in my line of questioning after deciding to, okay, yeah, maybe I'll let you question. I just thought it was weird, and comparing it to how he allowed opposing counsel to just have an open season on talking about things that wasn't on the docket today. We weren't speaking about that today, and he allowed them to have open season on it.
Well, so, at one point you did object on that. You said, Your Honor, you object pretty much. He said we're going to consider this thing a general objection down the line, and you made the point that, Your Honor, if I'd have known we were going to basically try my appeal here in this court, I would have brought a bunch more documents. But so your point is well taken that quite a few doors were opened on the State Police Commission side. So anything else you'd like to say, and then we'll let anybody else who'd like to comment on today's proceedings. That's why we're here. Any other?
No, I would just like to thank, like I say, my family, my extended family for coming out today and supporting me. And like I said, I don't look at today as a loss. I just look at today as something that's things were revealed, things were gained today. You know, my exhibits were put into the record. And listen, I have every intention to appeal this to the high heavens. I think they know that. So, you know, I think they know that. So they wanted to cut me off and, you know, try to stifle me, but it didn't work.
All righty, would anybody else like, it's open mic? Yeah, all right, here we go.
My name is Selena Charles. I'm actually a candidate for United States President for 2024. I support this brother, and I support Miss Ronald Green's family. Miss Mona, Ronald Green's family. We just have to be reminded that the young man, Mr. Ronald Green, was murdered by the state troopers. He was murdered. We have to be reminded of that. And we have to be reminded that this brother spoke up. You understand what I'm saying? We're supposed to live on truth. And that was honesty and that was dignity. And we're showing them what you stand for. You're showing them what you stand for. And we salute you for that. And I stand behind you 100%. Thank you.
Can you repeat again your name and you said
Selena Charles. I'm actually a candidate for United States President for 2024.
All righty. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Anybody else?
I just want to say this one
thing. This is Felicia. Oh yeah, we all know this is Felicia Cooper. She has been at State Police Commission meetings and got a little bit of a beef about the towing charges that can be imposed.
And we don't always have beef.
There you go. Well,
but
go
I
ahead.
did want to say something about that last meeting where Danelle had mentioned about Carl. They didn't want to. They didn't want to talk about you then, but they had plenty to say today. And I just wanted to say to Carl, you keep on doing you, baby. I know one thing, I got a lawyer for life. And you did an absolute amazing job. And we stand behind you 150%, baby. So whatever it is that I can do to help you, I'm there.
I'm gonna help you as much as I can.
Appreciate you.
How long
But,
does it take before you're through and ready for that bar? We gotta remember that date.
Oh, you can do
Every
it
4
before
years.
then.
4 years.
You don't need 4 years. Go on, hit it with 2.
All right, anybody else?
Yeah,
I'm a bit. Yes, yes. This is Sister Kadisha.
Yes,
She had a few thoughts in the courtroom, and
yes.
So-
I wanted to say that that if I was not totally pissed off with the state troopers, I'm totally pissed off with the arrogance, the way that they try to do Mr. Carl Cavalier. We have to remember, as Louisianians that were born here, it's our duty to speak up about the corruption. What they done, the way they brutalized Ronald Green was unbearable. And I'm not going to say I pray that they go to hell. They need to be in hell today, right now, for what they done. I think that us as a community that travel all over, we got to support Mr. Carl Cavalier. We got to support Mr. Ronald Green family. You know, because this is us. They taking the audacity to put their lives in jeopardy to do what is right. And it's up to us to do the right thing. No matter how you look at it, Louisiana has been corrupted from its core. But it's our Louisiana. It's us to talk about them low down, beat. Talk about them the way we supposed to. At one time, black lawyers had to take the state of Louisiana to court because they would not allow black lawyers to become judges. And the reason for that is because, oh, they might be a little bit more sympathetic. Well, you're supposed to be sympathetic. Judge Johnson should have been more sympathetic to Mr. Cavalier than he was before. You see this $1 million in lawyers? You see him up there, you know, getting paid overtime. They want this man to take a little piece of settlement or whatever they're trying to offer, and his whole life is gone, his family and everything. So to the best whistleblower in the world, that's Mr. Carl Cavalier. To the mother who lost her son tragically, we feel her pain, we understand her pain, and we're gonna be here no matter what. You have Brother Darrell with the Community Defender TV show. We highlight the family, we highlight Carl Cavalier, we highlight them all the time. Just yesterday, Mr. Carl Cavalier was on with you. And we're gonna keep on using our mouthpiece. Our mouthpiece is our power, trust me. We're going to be talking about these low-down real criminals. Thank you.
you're quite welcome. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
First of all, as a Muslim, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent and Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is his messenger. I just want to say that it is unfortunate that the murderers and those who protect the murderers tended to have more credibility with the court than those who expose the murderers and their murder. Everything I was taught as a child to do, everything my mother and father taught me of how to act as a man, how to stand up as a man, how to be a man, how to be a good person, I saw exemplified by Mr. Cavalier. And it really chokes me up just to look at his courage, his perseverance, him being the epitome of positive thinking. And it speaks to the nature that our brother Minister Farrakhan speaks on in terms of the goodness of our people. And I see that goodness coming out of Brother Cavalier today. And anybody that witnessed what was going on, no matter what side you were on, you had to admire his courage. You had to admire his backbone. That's the thing. And when somebody stands up for all of us, it is incumbent upon us to come out of the woodwork and support that person who was supporting right. The bottom line of it is there's a mother here whose son was beat to death. There's a man who's exposing that. That is what we have to keep our mind on. And the fact that all he wanted was a procedure that he is due to happen in a timely manner. That's all he was asking. We weren't asking today for those guys to be given life in prison today, though they deserve it.
Yes, they do.
And as Sister Khadijah would say, they need to go to hell right now. Not that they're going, because what we saw, as with the Alton Sterling case, was absolutely horrendous. There's no excuse for behaving like that, and everything that has come out, the wiping of phones in a federal investigation, all of the wickedness to cover this up. It is now today is what we call. In my faith, the manifestation of defects. These defects are going to be manifest. The Honorable Louis Farrakhan has said it, that they will no longer be able to hide, that the minute they tell a lie, God is setting it up where the truth itself is coming out right after they lie. And God is backing Brother Carl Cavalier. God is behind it. Understand what force is behind you. It is God Almighty that is touching the hearts of people, and you will be vindicated. I don't know when, but I know that God is going to vindicate you, and you're already vindicated with us. Matter of fact, you were never guilty with us in the first place.
What you saw today was David and Goliath. Yes, in the flesh, David and Goliath. But regardless of the story, that's right, what Louisiana steadily tries to narrate. Yeah. This is the winner right here. We ain't done. We ain't done. The last words are on us. That's right.
We ain't done with it.
All right.
And one more thing.
Sure,
One more thing.
sure.
We should have 1, 2, 3 lawyers that have backbone in the state of Louisiana, where they could go ahead and help Mr. Carl Cavalier with his case. We need to have lawyers. It doesn't matter. You have to be invested in criminal law, because these people up here, they know everything, all revised statute 1250. But we need somebody that is a lawyer in the state of Louisiana with backbone.
That's right.
Not these spineless vertebrates that take your case and just leave you hanging. We need lawyers with backbone. You could reach me at 337-781-1110, and I promise you, I will put you in touch with our hero right here, Mr. Carl Cavalier.
All righty. Anybody else? I feel like my auctioneer days. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
My organization, Evolve Louisiana, not only stands behind social justice, but this is family justice. As you see all these people here, we may have started with each other socially, but we consider each other family now.
That's right.
Mr. Ronald Green, Brother Carl Cavalier, because we can't do it without each other. If it was solely based on, if he was my brother or my cousin, a lot of things wouldn't happen. So this is a family orientation that we're doing here. And for this brother to stand up on his own 2 feet with everything against him in a court of law with hundreds of years of experience behind him on the opposite side, that is noble. That's the most noble thing I've probably seen in a very, very long time. And for us to come and be here with him and witness that is honorable in itself. And as far as 2 things I was taught as a child and also in the military was honor and integrity. Integrity is doing the right thing when no one is looking.
That's right.
Someone got murdered and beat to death, and someone lied about it, and he stood on his 2 feet and said, something is wrong with this. He sacrificed his livelihood, his career. He sacrificed everything about him to say, this is wrong. I'm going to stand up for this brother because I don't want to see this happen to me or anyone else. And he did that. He did that without asking anyone else's permission. He didn't go to the other councilman and ask. He did that because it was in his heart to do, because that's how he was raised, and that's how God ordained it in him. So this is about the murder of Ronald Green. This is about the integrity of the Louisiana State Police, because you should not be reprimanded for doing the right thing. He did the right thing. Ronald Green was minding his business, and it has happened over and over again throughout North Louisiana. And considering that the Department of Justice is coming down on Troop F, it is coming down on Troop. It has the evidence, not only the actual paperwork evidence, but also the actual video evidence of what's been happening. And they still to this day they're saying today in the courtroom, it upset me that Don Johnson will rule that he was not afforded the right to have an appeal about being fired for doing the right thing. That's what it said to me. So let's do the right thing. Let's stand up for Ronald Green. Let's stand up for Carl Cavalier and everyone else in the state of Louisiana.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Last call. Thank everyone for coming out. Thank everyone. Thank everyone for your feedback. We'll see you again soon for another edition of Sound Off Louisiana.